How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another Carpo video. I think it's August 7th or 8th, whatever. And, you know, I was thinking about how to start this video. I was going to say, first off, that I consistently have these thoughts about making a video to talk about a particular subject, and if it pertains to a person or a specific group of people, I generally tend to just not make the video, mainly because I'm always, to put it bluntly, every time I get online, there's more and more bullshit and more idiots spreading nonsense. And I also see that a lot of YouTubers and bloggers will ride the coattails of somebody who's really popular at the moment. So let's just say there's a lot of bustle about a particular football player, a musician, it could be anything. And they'll start titling their videos in order to get, to attract the attention and the controversy of it. And so, partially for that reason, and partially for the reason of not wanting to deal with idiots, arguing with idiots, I avoid making videos, let's say, exposing anyone. And only a couple times in the past have I found it really worthy of doing so. But there's so many morons out there. I'll start off with my example. I made a video about this guy with this scalar energy device where you send him a picture of yourself and supposedly he can assemble all the nutrients that your body needs remotely, and he will wipe out all pathogens and he'll cure a variety of illnesses and ailments, diseases. And I've called him out before. I've said, can you give me evidence on how this thing works? Personally talked with the guy. Now, he's pretty small time right now, but I can just see it in the future. When this guy gets a bunch of people that believe him, the more and more people that reinforce, that kind of shit, the more people are going to put their money into it. But it's not just him. I mean, I made a video about David Icke a few years ago, and I'm constantly receiving feedback from people on that one who are like, you're an idiot, you're delusional, you must be working for the Illuminati, and, you're a shill and a disinformant. And all those things that I was, I'll tell you, what triggered this was actually, I was going back through some old writings on the computer on an old, USB memory stick I had from years ago. And I thought, I want to go back through some of my old writing and see if any of it's worth keeping or maybe finishing. Half-written stories and papers, mostly non-fiction, my ideas about the world. And there was this one that started off talking about chemtrails and geoengineering and a variety of conspiracies and how we were all being deluded and lied to. And I just laughed at myself, thinking back to, when I was in my conspiracy or ranting phase. I wasn't as extreme, not nearly as extreme as some of the people I come across, but it gave me a perspective into how far a person will go to confirm what they want to believe to be true. And how they will selectively use confirmation bias while ignoring anything that refutes their opinions. This is why I don't argue with the conspiracy theorist type, which I guess some of them will call themselves hoaxers now, or trying to expose all these hoaxes. And to get right into it, there's guys like Alex Jones, and Alex Jones is a complete piece of trash. I despise the guy. Mark Dice is not quite as bad, but he's a moron as well. They're both kind of extreme Christians who put out these fear-mongering videos. And I'll tell you, I've argued with both of them personally. Back when Alex Jones first started his YouTube channel, he actually blocked me twice. Not for arguing or for calling him out, but for just asking a question that was legitimate, because it didn't seem to make sense what he was saying. And at that time, I'd been hearing about Alex Jones since about 2000, when I read Behold a Pale Horse by William Cooper. And Alex Jones used a lot of William Cooper's work in order to kind of kickstart his whole shebang. But back in '95, Alex Jones started this whole crusade about Y2K being the end of the world. Conveniently, he was able to sell many of his survival kits. He sold guns, ammunition, and all types of survival supplies during this time. Still to this day, he's selling a variety of, I think he's still selling some sort of survival gear, and his vitamins that are supposed to, you know, his anti-fluoride, you know, iodine stuff that's supposed to treat your bad tap water, while giving you, I guess, twice the recommended dosage of iodine. The guy is just causing problems left and right just by being such, let's put it this way, he's a showman and he does this for the money. And he knows he does it for the money. He doesn't believe half of the things he's saying. And if people really think that he actually believes all of this, you're missing the whole point. Recently there was a case where his wife was trying to get custody of his kids, and you know, his wife was saying, look, he's a lunatic. And his lawyer testified that, oh, Jones is actually just a showman, you know, that it's all an act. And they had to use that testimony in order to, you know, try to fight the court battle. But what do you do when you're torn between, do I play a fool or am I really a fool? You know, but the thing is, it wouldn't even be worth tackling if it hadn't have been for things like Sandy Hook, which to him was a complete fabrication. And he was one of the ones spreading all the nonsense about how it never happened and everyone were crisis actors. You know, I read a story about, it was from one of the fathers who, you know, he lost the youngest boy, you know, in that shooting. And he was talking about how he constantly gets harassed by these so-called truthers, telling him things like, you're a liar, you're a fraud, you're a piece of shit, your kid never died, you never had a son, prove it. I believe Alex Jones said something to the effect of, you know, I'd have him only have him on the show if he exhumed his, you know, dead son to prove it. People are so disrespectful in that way, and you know, there's a word for it that, you know, I can't remember the exact term that they were using for this, but people who gravitate towards one belief like this tend to gravitate towards them all. In other words, the conspiracy realm, the truthers, whatever you want to call them, they don't just believe in one conspiracy and move on. They believe in all of them, and they all share their stories and tell everybody how they're being lied to. These are sheeple trying to wake up the sheeple. Sorry to say. I've been up and down through the aisles of truthers claiming to tell you the truth, and it seems that most of them that I've listened to have sociopathic tendencies. They seem to want to be liked, they want to be respected and revered, and they don't want to be talked back to or questioned. They're very authoritarian in that way, and when you get a bunch of subscribers and people buying your books and your survival guides and backing you up, then you start to maybe believe your own bullshit. But I see it for what it is. Bullshit. Fear-mongering. Fear-mongering is a problem because it's causing people to do things like call parents of dead children and tell them they're liars. Or go into a pizza place because he claimed Pizzagate, the Pizzagate conspiracy was real, so this guy marches into, I believe it was, I don't remember if anybody got shot or hurt in that one, but he marches into this pizza place looking for this non-existent basement where supposedly all these, you know, pedophile rings take place. Now, first off, nobody's in denial that there's pedophilia going on. No one's in denial that there's conspiracies going on. No one's in denial that the government is lying to us more times than not, and that they will set up all kinds of false flag events and pretenses to go to war. All of that is pretty well known, even by the mainstream. Even the idiots realize they're being lied to. But that does not mean that this truther side of it is true. It doesn't mean that they have the full story either. And people will go to great lengths to, basically, you know, I think someone put it like this. They said, you know, if Alex Jones farts, somehow he'll turn it into a bean grower conspiracy. You know what I mean? And that's pretty much it. Nothing can happen anymore without being tied into something that's a grand conspiracy. And I could barely touch on these subjects here. I mean, the Illuminati issue, the whole, you know, the Bavarian Illuminati were a short-lived 20-year group. They eventually disbanded and probably rebanded into other groups. There have been secret societies since civilization began. There have been secret groups who see themselves as wanting to separate themselves from others, perhaps even thinking that they're better, perhaps even planning for world domination. The thing that we're missing here is that people are not smart enough or organized enough to dominate the world and make it work the way they want it to. By the time a human life is over, trying to pass this on to the next generation and say, oh, you have to continue this world domination clause. I mean, times change, things change, economies change, natural disasters and man-made disasters. We never can predict everything that's going to happen. So the belief that people are organized enough to plan a centuries-long conspiracy, it's been the hopes of many people, but it doesn't mean that it's actually going to happen. And getting past that, you realize that there are small sects of people that all want to dominate for money, for profit, for motive. Much of this is true. The problem is you can't just lace in some truth with a whole shitload of lies and call that truthing. That's not journalism. That's sensationalism. And it's causing fear is what I think that the root of many of our problems are in society right now, is our fear. And God damn it if we don't have enough fears of death alone, enough fears of maybe being harmed or, not being able to work. We have legitimate fears in life. We don't need to be worrying about whether the Illuminati is looking over our shoulder or our smart devices are going to kill us or we're going to die drinking tap water. I mean, I'll admit, for example, the anti-vaxxers, people who think that vaccines still cause autism. You're an idiot if you believe that. There's no research to show it, and I've dug deep. I have kids. Doesn't mean that they're 100% safe. Absolutely not. I'm not saying that vaccines are totally safe, but we know what happens when you don't vaccinate. And I won't even get into the details, but the point is, recently there's been an anti-vaxxer movement where they say they don't want their dogs to get autism, so they're not vaccinating their dogs for rabies. This is lunacy. And so this is what I mean by every time I walk out the door or turn on the internet, go to a page, there's such a vast amount of nonsense and garbage and drivel that you can hear repeated over and over by people. And the minute you say, this might not be true, instantly you work for the government, you're part of the problem. And I thought about this earlier. The thing is, they can always turn it around to make it seem like you don't care about your country, you don't care about your people, or that you're in with the Satanists. I'm aware of things that happen in Bohemian Grove and all these other places. There's some wild, I won't even get into the details because a lot of it is true. There are groups of elites that meet and have secret meetings and talk about, there are individuals who make decisions that change economies of entire countries, and that's not going to change because, you're screaming Illuminati. And I guess that my point here is because the reason, like I said, to come full circle, the reason I don't talk about these things or try to expose the truthers is because they consistently will attack anybody, and that's fine, but nobody seems to be really trying to get to the bottom of the truth. It seems that a majority of the people I've talked with want to believe that everything is under control, even if in a negative way. And researching the psychology of this in my own mind and doing a lot of thinking over the years, I've come to realize that often the conspiracy mentality or the fear of everything is brought on by being at a time in your life where you may feel out of control or maybe not satisfied or wish you could be doing better, because you don't generally, it seems to be related with how a person's feeling as to whether they're attracted or magnetic attraction to these types of things, because I've been there and I know that it's a waste of time to wake up every morning and see what conspiracies have happened or which new leaders are, reptilians. I mean, and there are so many angles to go on. There's so much bullshit out there. It gets into the Pleiadians and the reptilians and, people speaking through, these beings, which may just be their subconscious, Nobody's revealing any new information that's actually helping, move us forward. None of it. It's all garbage. I mean, most of the truther information about hoaxes and lies, If any of it, some of it's true, and a lot of it's not, especially with Alex Jones. He'll take a partial truth and he'll try to turn it into something that you can't really dispute because you can't prove one way or another. It's like you can't prove God or disprove God, and this goes with so many other things too. Never to anyone's satisfaction, and every conspiracy is going to be the same way. So, people are free to believe what they like. I mean, I'm not one to say that a person shouldn't be aware of the chaos that's going on in the world. But if it's all about trying to find where other people are lying and you're threatening people's lives because of it, when parents of innocent children have to be threatened and harassed by people coming around saying this never happened, that never happened, merely for the attention that it gets them. Because I've looked into some of these people. I've looked the top guy who's pushing the Sandy Hook thing. I think he's from Florida, and he travels up there. And there's the rubber ducks in that town represent kind of the healing process. And when he came to visit the town, they covered his car with rubber ducks and threatened him too. It's basically like the parents are retaliating back against these truthers or hoaxers, which is interesting because if these were just people who were actors that never had any children, why would they go and risk their own freedom and go to the effort to try to harass these hoaxers? And if these people that are supposedly these truthers, because they talk about how anybody who has anything important to say is killed off, but magically these truthers who claim this are all still alive. If Alex Jones is such a threat to the system, then why is he consistently existing? It'd be easy to, for any elite to just poison his meal. I mean, there's a million ways to kill a person. And even if people thought he was a martyr, who would care? You can't stop people. So supposedly these shadow governments that have all controlling power, that laws don't apply to them, are going to let them be exposed. And there's stories to explain every single thing. So hopefully by watching this, you're not going to take from it that I think that all conspiracies are fake. I've made it pretty clear that I'm aware of what's going on. There are so many that are just unbelievable, and I would expect it. Human beings are smart. And a lot of people are really into money, and if money is your thing, then you're going to get together with other people that money is their thing. It's just like if you play frisbee, or if you play disc golf, or if you're a musician, you're going to congregate with people who are like-minded, and money is an art. There are people who take that as their art to make money. I mean, I've seen interviews with billionaires that when they ask, when is enough enough, they say, what do you mean? They have a blank stare. They just don't even know what you're talking about. They're like, it's not about the amount of money. Making money is what I do. And I think when people start to understand that, to realize that the money will always flow towards certain channels. There's some people who can't manage money at all, and others who want to hoard it all. It's like energy. The money flows. Energy flows where energy goes. What was that? Anyhow, this has been long enough already. I guess it's just kind of not an expose. I'm not really trying to, call anyone out. I'm just saying that a majority of these people are causing more damage than value, because all I can see is blatant claims that can't be proven most of the time, and not a lot of solutions, except for buy my stuff, buy my books, buy my survival kits. And coincidentally, these people are always selling books or kits or pills or whatever that's related to the things that they're scaring you with. And if people can't see that, if people can't see that multimillionaires are getting rich off of people's stupidity, and allowing advertisements on their channels from the very companies that they're claiming to be against, people are just, it's like, fucking, what do you do? How do you explain how stupid people are sometimes without offending everyone thinking, well, I'm not stupid? In some ways, we're all stupid. I'm stupid with motivation or with starting something new. It's hard for me to understand that mindset. Like some others see it, and everyone's stupid in their own way. But if you're stupid about what's going on in reality, or at least in the world that we all inhabit, that's fine. It's not going to harm anyone. And this is the thing, this is the point I want to make before I go. It's not about stopping people from believing those things. If a person wants to believe something, so be it. But when it comes to harassing others who were involved in things that were legitimate things, or when a person's making the claim that every single thing that happens on the news is fake, when people are out there screaming fake at news, at every single story that happens, and what that tells me, and this is just my opinion, is that as a society, the information age has overwhelmed the shit out of us. There is so much to process, and nobody can wade through it all, or decide what's important. More and more people, more and more stories, and then there's more and more new history discovered. Nobody can keep up. So what a lot of folks have done is taken to believe that everything that happens is fake. Because that allows people to just live in the paradigm they want, the reality they want. They can assume everyone else is lying to them, because that's a hell of a lot easier than doing the research to find the truth. And a hell of a lot easier than admitting when we're wrong or when we don't understand something. It extends into the realm of believing that the planet is flat, and that there's a grand worldwide conspiracy for thousands of years to convince people for some reason that the Earth is flat, is not flat, and that sailors have hit an ice ridge, and that planes, the GPS is all rigged to make the planes think they're flying around the Earth, and that if only people would just wake up, those sheeple, and realize they're on a flat planet, they would understand. I've had several discussions on this subject with people. I've pointed out, why does GPS work in the ocean if there's land-based towers directing it? How does the eclipse that's coming up in a week and a half, how does that function? Many of these things, and find that they have an answer for every single thing, even if they don't make sense, because in order to believe something, you have to create a system around it to where you're going to reject any new information. And so that brings me really to the point. What do we do about stupidity? What do we do in an era where people are willing to believe these ranting lunatics without even doing any research or any critical assessment of why this person's screaming at them that the frogs are gay, and that homosexuality is like a weaponization against people, and that they're trying to kill our kids, and that everyone's a mental slave, and that we're all put into these slave trades and trained to be numbers. A lot of this is personal choice. How you perceive the world, how you allow your kids to grow up. If perhaps we are treated a little bit like a number, but when you have 7 billion people, you can't expect to be special unless you make yourself special. So it's important we as individuals stop blaming the government for our problems, that we stop blaming other races for our problems, that we stop blaming gay frogs for our problems, and that we get our shit together and realize that we're responsible for ourselves. And if our life isn't going too well, then we need to pick up our britches and do something about it. And fear-mongering is not a solution to anything. And even if it was true, I might still be opposed to it. But when it's fake fear-mongering, all I can say is that any real news that comes out is treated as fake. But anything that's said by these morons that don't do any field research is gospel. So the only solution is for people to take it upon themselves to grow up a little bit. Yeah, so I'll talk to y'all later, and have a good one.